Alright, you might recognize this ATV. It's from my how to make 4K in a month flipping ATVs video. I said I was going to go over in depth how to replace the wiring harness, how to replace the carburetor, how to do an oil change, and just pretty much the basics. The most important thing when you're repairing one of these ATVs, see, the things that go out the most are the carburetor. Usually after a long winter, it gets all clogged up and it just has to get replaced. It's not even worth cleaning it. It's literally just needs to get replaced. Or the electrical is a complete disaster, like this one. Like look at these connections. What's going on here is a bunch of cut wires. In this video, I'm just gonna go over the wiring harness. Right off the bat, this wiring harness is an absolute disaster. It's not looking good, to say the least. So what I'm going to do is plug up the battery, see if I could get the engine to turn over. Whether there's spark or not, we're going to see, but at least I could see if the starter needs to get replaced or not. Start off with plugging in the battery. I could already smell something burning. What you want to do is you go to the solenoid, jump start the solenoid. You do that very simply by connecting the two ends. So you have 1 and 2 poles right here. You want to connect it with a piece of metal. You just touch the two ends together. Anyway, that's how you identify if the starter's working. Regardless of whether the solenoid's working or not, if your starter's working, then this is going to fire up your starter. And if your solenoid works, you should hear a clicking when you do this from your solenoid, which I'm not hearing from this one, so that means that my solenoid is definitely burnt. Regardless, the whole wiring harness is going to get changed. It's an absolute disaster. There's no saving this. Quick tip, by the way, in case you replaced your wiring harness and it was running fine, and then out of nowhere your wiring stops, your harness stops working, and you can't get it to turn over, and the buttons aren't working, and you're not sure what's happening. First of all, check your ground, because sometimes your ground could be disconnected. But if it's not, 9 times out of 10, it's your solenoid. This is what makes the starter turn over. A spark issue or anything like that. Like, this is strictly just in case your starter is not turning over. It could only be 2 things. It's either your battery is dead, your relay solenoid's not working, which is this, or your starter's not working. So start off with this. Connect a piece of metal to the 2 poles, a screwdriver, a key, anything. And if you hear a clicking from the solenoid, your solenoid's good. If you don't hear a clicking, it's going to turn over regardless. Your starter's going to turn over regardless if it's a good starter. But if you don't hear a clicking, it means your starter, your relay is gone. You see, this one, I don't hear any clicking at all. So it's indistinguishable. You could hear the clicking 100% sure. Even if you don't have a starter connected, you should hear the clicking. And this one doesn't have it. So in theory, this solenoid is not functioning properly either. And because this isn't functioning properly, that means that the starter button would never work on this wiring assembly, or on yours for that matter, if you're chasing that kind of a problem. We determined that the starter is still good on this particular unit over here, so I'm not going to replace the starter. If your starter is not good after doing the solenoid test like I just did, I'm going to put a link in the description to a video called how to replace a starter on a Chinese ATV. This is a bottom mount starter, so it's very simple. If it's on the bottom, it's bottom mount. If it's on the top, it's top mount. There's only 2 types of starters for these horizontal engines. So check that out if you need guidance for that. If not, we just saved ourselves a starter, and I'm going to continue going. Next thing I'm going to be doing is removing the entire old wiring harness. So